Hello, my name is James Eubank, President, Floresville Economic Development Corporation. We're here to have a regular meeting on Monday, September 9th, 2013. It is 6:35. I'd like to call the meeting to order, establish the quorum. We have Mary Helen Teakin, David Crozier, Mike Curry, Jason Talley, Executive Interim Director Ram Ramirez, and myself. We have a quorum. I'd like you to all join me as we stand and say a prayer, and then we'll follow by pledge of allegiance. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today just humble because of the glory of your Son, Jesus Christ, and what he's done for us, and by grace he's given us a chance at second life. Lord, if we conduct your business tonight, we want it to be your business and not ours. We want to follow your will and your wishes. Lord, we also ask that you watch those that are being discussed tonight, if we watch over them, but we want you to also be in their heart to help guide them and direct them. Lord, again, bless this meeting, bless this committee, bless this city and this United States. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I take my flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, and you may be seated. We have citizen comment, and Kirk Mullen, I believe you're on the agenda, and also you signed up for comment tonight.
Oh, I get to go first?
You're up first.
That is great. Well, we've got the tower out there located at the industrial park, and I'd like to extend that up about 30 feet, 40 feet. And in order to do that, I'm going to put some guy wires up there, and I never got the definition from Jesse on where those guy wires could actually be placed. So I'd like to discuss that or see what I need to do to get some definition of where those guy wires can go on the tower.
Do you have any kind of written agreement, because we've searched our file on anything regarding that, about agreements you had with FEDC? Do you have anything writing there? Okay, you do have something in writing from Jesse?
Yeah. On the invoice, what we did, we had a bilateral agreement, and what we did there is we provided all the labor and the equipment to put it up. They bought the tower, so technically the tower is owned by the FEDC, but the agreement was that we donated the labor and the equipment for exclusive use of the tower. And now we're running into an issue because La Quinta Inn has built, we need to go up in height in order to get over the La Quinta Inn structure.
Okay, and you have a written with the unilateral agreement where that's all stipulated?
I have the invoice that states what they paid for, and it states on the invoice for exclusive use by our company, which is signed by Jesse, and then, of course, there was a check that was written on the
Right. And for rent that you're gonna be paying for FEDC on the use of the area and all, or that's in the agreement too?
There was no mention of rent because that was on FEDC property, so it was going to be for our use. That's why we donated the labor and donated the equipment to put it up.
Okay, typically if you have a tower or a sign or something like that, you do pay the landowner a rent. But there was nothing in that either on that?
No, there wasn't.
Did you find something, you found something that was scribbled or?
I found a note, piece of paper, that Jesse had written down in regard to Top Gun communications, but I didn't know what it really meant, because I didn't know even that it belonged to Top Gun, But that's the only thing that I've run across.
You never
But I've looked through, and there's a lot of paper, all over, but I have not yet run into the specifics for the agreement or, that was.
Where it's gonna be a 40-foot tire, 10-foot tire, and nothing. There's nothing out there. What you're hearing is we don't have anything in our file. So we need to see what you have and all, that we could go from there.
Oh, okay. I don't have that with me. I can certainly submit that. I can probably have it for tomorrow. Just need to
You
know.
would
when to
just
get to.
turn everything you have, because I'm sure we have the invoice that you're talking about where we paid the bill, but
We'll have to dig it up, you know, when we find.
Will we want to further address this when we get to item G?
we're gonna have to discuss it more. But this time, while he's speaking, I can ask him what he had.
Okay.
Anything else regarding citizen comments, questions that you have?
When was that done?
I want to say, I have to look at my records on it. It was probably done about a year ago. So,
Well,
we've got equipment up on it now, and we're having issues getting the service out to it.
So is there power going to it already or what?
It's solar powered.
yeah, see the strip on the side of it. If you would please, deliver that invoice and all to
Okay.
Ram
Okay.
and all.
Do you need me to remain for the discussion? Very good. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for your.
Any other citizen comments? Let's go to old business. We're gonna look for approval of minutes for August 12th and 16th, and it's in your, attached to your minutes. If you'll peruse those, I'd like to send those minutes.
On the August 16th meeting. How will we notify you that? Is that just a select board?
No, posted. I believe that meeting, as far as yourself, you indicated and reported that you were gonna be out of town that weekend, that Friday. In fact, I know it was. And then the Monday, you was out that Monday and you said you wouldn't be back for Friday. What you reported that?
Is that not this one? I know it was out on the 12th.
And there's the, Rancho
This
Grande.
was a special.
This is a special
Okay.
meeting.
I just wasn't calling.
And the sole thing on that, well, particularly the Laredo hydrotac meeting. Any other question, comment, correction?
I think we scheduled that Monday night.
That is
For
correct.
next month. All right.
I think that is one thing that we need to do, is to send out, sending harm and sending out an email message reminder.
Any other question, comment? If not, Can I have a motion to dispense to approve for rest of minutes, please?
I move that we approve the minutes of the August 12th and August 16th meeting.
Have a motion and a second. Any other comments, corrections, additions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed for approval of the minutes of 12th and 16th. Treasurer report, Mr. Jason, do you have any
Okay.
treasurer reports you'd like
Yes,
to make?
I do. You've been handed the detail, but before we go there, let me just read off some balances real quick. The current balance of the money market account is $1,311,249.86. $1,311,249.86, and that does the 831. That's the reconciled total. And then the checking account as of that same date is $13,641.58. Of course, we still have the same CD, which is just a tad over 58,000, but I don't have the exact total. And that's at Wells Fargo Bank, right? And let's go ahead and go over last month's expenses. That would be on this first page here. And starting at the top, of course, your phone, your electric bill, fuel, oil, those kind of things. That was the last payment on the audit. I will say that we had Pat scheduled for this meeting, but her mother's ill and she had to go to California to attend to her illness. And my hope was, Andy, to get a conference call at least with her on the phone, but it just, time went by too fast. So we'll probably, my recommendation would be, if she can't make the next meeting, we schedule a conference call so that we can discuss these items that we've talked about, and then that way we can report back to the board. But that was the last payment there. The 812 check, if you recall, when we did the directors and officers liability, what happened is when the general agency that sent the quote, they got two companies flipped, which means one of them was lower, one of them was a little bit higher, okay? We paid the right one, but when I got the statement, I thought, whoa, gosh, that's less money. Well, the right invoice we received should have been the correct amount, meaning Doug had to bill for 400 more, so that came to a total of $1,882, okay? Because that was the correct premium that we originally looked at. But he collected this later once they realized it was an error. And so that's all that was. If you recall, we approved in a meeting to, I think, spend no more than $2,400 or something like that. So that's that. Of course, Berry and Partners, that is engineering on the Rancho Grande Business Park, more work out there, and then also drawing a blank, the Veterans Park sewer extension project over there. So of that total, about $3,300, I believe, was the business park, and a little over to the $2,000 was for that line extension. Of course, taxes pay. Lashley is more shredding to wrap up the business park out there. Some advertising. This is something that, you know, RAM gets hit up all the time, and there's been a lot of these things I've said no to. This happened to be a local, I guess, program that's being done that the group had done before, so he went ahead and did that. But, you know, there's been a number of them I've declined to do anything with, not really understanding exactly what the promotional is going into. So, HiFam was the electrical amount that was paid to clear that up with the electric company. Legal, of course, more shredding. City of Floresville did water. Surveying, that's 2 jobs. That would have been the beer warehouse survey, and that would have been, okay. So those are about equal. The payoff on the entrance, the $71,202.50 there, is the payoff on that entrance, and then Kathy for administrative stuff. So that's that. Checking the Others, the money market account, and you see where the mineral lease income has come in there at the top. This other deposit, which is the second one there, was the 2 properties sold to the business park. That will be detailed on the next couple of pages. And then the rest, one of those is the payment to the Wells Fargo Bank for the business park property, of which we did receive the payoff, and we'll be doing that real soon. Payoff is less than actually what we had projected. Here's the profit and loss budget report. If you go down this first column here, you see property sales. It shows those 2 sales broken out there with Hammer. You see the Whitmire transaction that occurred, as well as the other 2 acres in the earnest money that had been returned on another property. You see the mineral lease income recorded in there as well. And expenses, you know, we've pretty much covered that. We took the legal of those transactions, broke them down under legal and professional fees. Really everything else is previous costs that you've seen. Oh, under Rancho Grande, down at the bottom of page 3, you see the driveway. That's complete now. It's $71,202.50.
And I think on that, Jason, we retain 5%.
5%.
Right?
Yeah, so there'll be one more draw that comes in for the
Yeah,
5%.
Yep, so about what?
I got a question.
Okay.
On page 2, under Country Auto Park, Darrell Brown design, what was that?
That was a cost associated with the design he did for a long-term plan for that property. And it's hanging there in the, but that was,
Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
time.
that was way,
That was in
way
12.
back.
Okay.
So, that was before we came on
Okay.
in December. So that's the profit and loss. You know, it's been nice now, because when we record these items in there each month, it just takes a few minutes versus hours. So,
Anyone have any questions for Jason? I guess we're ready to turn this over October 1st to the city, pending approval of interlocal and all.
now, we've approved the accounting services agreement, so that has been approved. So it's just a matter of, you know, they were shooting for 10-1 doing that.
Okay. Good report. Any questions, gentlemen, ladies?
Really nice to have factual information in front of us.
Also nice to see we collected $864,882 more we spent this year.
Mm-hmm.
No, we got the projects ahead of us to pay for.
U.S. government with it.
We didn't bail them out.
I guess you feel like $1,000 for that money to complete all the old stuff behind us?
What's that?
I think he tried to complete.
Oh, yeah. We did receive, and I haven't, I just saw this today, but a notice from the IRS indicating that a filing was late. Well, this came from our accounting firm, which, you know, back, what, 5 months ago? We talked about this, and we had the proof in the file, and every document I've looked at is we met all their deadlines. So they too believe that our deadlines are met, so they're following up to see what the deal is here,
I
okay?
think there's a typo or something.
I don't know, but I can't find a typo anywhere on either forms, because I looked at the previous extensions, so,
So is a form included there? Copy?
No, that's,
well, that's just the letter, the love letter from IRS.
that's our $9,100.
But there's no, you know, everything that I find in the file shows that everything was met, you know, in the right time.
And so Alonzo they have
They agreed.
responded.
Well, as soon as I got it, I went ahead and called them and told them, and I think they already knew because it said, is it from the IRS? I said, yes, it is. I said, so it's on its way.
Yeah.
So they went ahead and
Yeah.
And
I believe our agreement, if they make an error, they pay the fine too, the penalties and fines.
So I couldn't find anything where we hadn't done this properly. I think what happened is we had to file a couple of extensions just because of the time frame that was involved in getting the audit done, but that's common with those forms, so I think we'll be all right.
Committee report, finance, I believe finance committee met. Personnel committee did meet, but I guess you'll reserve and hold that to the meeting later, or you'll do something now?
No, I just, would like to reserve a statement and report if you have to
Okay.
come back out of executive session.
Okay. Ram, you want to give the
Yeah.
executive report?
Let me just bring you up to date. As it was indicated, you know, the Rancho Grande Industrial Park has been completed, the entrance. We've still got a couple of things that we have to work out with the city regarding a stop sign that will have to be erected, but that's no problem. I think we'll take care of that. I think we did all the mowing, you know, all the shredding that needed to be shredded out there, and hopefully that for the next couple of months, if we don't get any rain, you know, it'll stay low, and it won't get as high as it was. But I think everything out there looks real nice, and hopefully that we can make the progress on the roadway. And I'm not going to take anything from Larry. Larry will bring us up to date on the roadway. On the Veterans Business Park, I've been communicating with the city and with Mr. Heimer. You know, all three of us have been discussing the situation on the sewer line that will be worked out there. I think Mr. Heimer has already indicated that materials that will be needed, the manholes, materials, and the pipe and everything that will be needed to get laid there for the sewer to be connected. And hopefully, I think we have worked it out with the city that being that they don't have the pool staff that they used to have, you know, 3, 4, 5 months ago. They have cut down. But nevertheless, they said that that would be, once they start on digging the trench, you know, if for any reason they get pulled to do an emergency type of work elsewhere, they will do the emergency, but they'll go back to the original working up, you know, and finishing the work there. They anticipate that if no bad weather in sight, you know, no more than a month will it take them to do the trench, put it in the ground, and cover it up. And we won't have to, it's my understanding that we won't have to get a big machine to do the trench. I think the backhoe, is my understanding, would be.
Yes, all the trench, it's a 6-foot deep maximum
Yeah,
depth, so it's.
you know. But I think on the McCoy situation, that has been, you know, the road's been completed, you know, maybe not to what was expected to be, but nevertheless, it was completed. And we have, you know, completed that work. The other thing that I'll mention is the hike and bike trail, the fence that was to be erected at the bridge, Spring Branch, Seguin Branch.
Better known as the bridge to nowhere.
We have,
$2 million bridge.
Oh.
$1,000,008.
we have, you know, we have gotten Mr. Wooley,
Ed,
Ed Wooley, and he has, you know, accepted the responsibility that if we purchase the materials, he will do the job. And that's the agreement that we have. We have purchased the equipment that he needed, It's been picked up already, it's been paid for, so he indicated for me to tell the board that he appreciates the assistance and cooperation that he's gotten, because he's been after this for a long time. And finally, it came to reality. So that's, you know, we don't have to be worrying anymore about that situation there at the bridge. Everything else, I think it's, you know, been going on real good. There's been a lot of inquiries in regards to property that are available, you know. People have been inquiring, and I've been telling them what we have available, and possibly, you know, what's available on the highway, you know. So they give no names. They give, you know, they don't want to give any names in regards to what to expect or who they represent. But nevertheless, there's a lot of inquiries, and it's mainly retail merchants.
So over the last month, since we've last met, how many phone calls do you think you did over a month?
It varied, you know, I would say about 25. And they're looking for from 2 acres to, you know, 50 acres.
Go ahead.
I was gonna mention about the, in front of the VA center, and there's inquiries all the time about that. I've taken dozens of people there. But the big question is, do you wanna go with more apartments, more housing? You want the board's pleasure. You know, that's not exactly a retail spot. But there are inquiries about that. Of course, you have your water issues, and we have this, do we have this, do we have that. But it needs some guidance. And we can certainly get that in place if somebody, if we know what we want to market for.
I think we'd like to do business development right now. We just got the 2 new apartments coming on with 250 units in there. It'd be nice if we had some businesses, the Whitmire type professional businesses with good pay scale would be very attractive. Wouldn't compete with any of the other businesses that we have and things that would.
I agree with you. I think we'll be getting a little bit long on more housing, but that seems to be the flavor of the month as far as people coming by. That's the big interest at the moment.
Well, I think we probably need to, we're getting real close now, that we need to just sit down and say, hey, let's do a little planning on some of these.
As we plan and as we adjust our prices to the real market, the plan will come into place. It will be, you'll get less targeters and more serious
I
people.
would agree. It needs to be more business-oriented,
I think
job-producing
I think we have
type
plenty.
opportunities.
Continuing on the RAM thing, a couple of things I'd like to add to that is on the Woolney is, I asked Howard to draw up a release on that one, so he's prepared to release. Since it's a quasi thing where we're not putting in fences originally to replace that one there. So he's gonna be signing a release on that. On the beer warehouse, the survey came in on that, and as I was fearful of, that building is not on our property completely. It protrudes out into the hike and bike trail significantly. So one of the jobs is gonna need to be addressed soon is to either approach the city to obtain some extra land so we have all of our building, and or maybe jointly market the property that they own there with our, and go from that. So there's, unfortunately, the beer warehouse, marketing that if we did, that's on hold right now until we find out what the city's going to want to do with their portion. They have hired a new city manager, I understand, and she's supposed to start October 1st, so that be something we probably need to defer until she comes on board.
You'll have a copy of the survey?
Yeah. It's not a foot or 2,
Really?
no.
It's substantial.
About 15 feet.
Not quite, but it's, you know.
About a 6 pack.
Yeah, and there's no parking to the front porch and,
City property encapsulates
the city, the hike and bike trail, which is owned by the city, the way I understand, is where the majority of the bulk of it encroaches. Any other questions for, Mr. Ramirez? If not, we're gonna go ahead and proceed into new business, and, item A is the custom presentation for progress report by Mr. Larry Heimer from Burry and Partners in San Antonio, and engineering for us to work on industrial park and veteran business park. Mr. Heimer, thank you for coming. Sure. Can I, lay your package out, to hold them, how you want to?
Well, probably, let me just lay this out in the, on the table there, and I'll pass out the, this is kind of shows the roads out in Rancho Grande, and then I've got a copy of, kind of a draft copy of Frugrell's report that, they weren't able to get their final report to me this afternoon, but they did send me a draft, so I think it's probably 95% complete. But, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
The FEDC retained Frugrell to go out and conduct some borings of the existing base material, because that was kind of the bit of information that we had to have in order to define the work that needs to be done to finish those streets. We'd heard that there was 6 inches of base put there, but we weren't sure about that. And so Frugrell went out there and did borings, as kind of indicated by those colored dots on the plan of where the existing base is. And based on their borings, they've identified how thick the base is. And I apologize for choosing red and orange. Probably should have used red and yellow, but there is a slight difference between red and orange on this sheet. But that shows those intervals are about every 200 feet, and they kind of took those borings in the center line or the offset out in one of the lanes to give us an idea of what was there. And we found that for the red dots represent base thicknesses that range from 2 inches to 5 inches in thickness. The orange ranges from 6 to 9 inches in thickness. And then the green is the 10 to 17 inches of thickness. And the reason we chose, the typical county road section requires a 10-inch flexible base section, and so that was kind of what we're looking for out there, is at least 10 inches of base. So it kind of gives you an idea of kind of what's out there based on their borings.
That's the highway over there.
Yes.
The deepest part, is it the back part of this?
Yes.
Like where they dumped everything, or what?
I guess that may have been the last portion, but for whatever reason, whoever installed this, made sure it was deep enough.
They were trying to get close to their training ponds. The land's worth more money.
But there's also some area right here where the drainage structure is. There's also 10 inches and above. But basically, everything that's in that 2 to 9 inch category, we're going to have to do something with by adding on base material and kind of bringing it up to at least a 10-inch section.
And your weakest link in the train is where your highest truck traffic is.
And there was also, they also did some density tests to check compaction, and they found there was quite a few areas on the main road coming in that wasn't compacted all. We typically want a 95% density and compaction on base material. Most of that area was less than 95%. And that may have been just because it was just installed, and it may have, at one point in time, it may have been at 95%, but because it never was completed with rain and truck traffic, it may have lost some of that compaction, I don't know. But most of the density tests along the main road, Rancho Grande, are less than 95%, whereas most of the tests along Cardinal appear to be about 95% or thereabouts. So I don't know why that is, but that's what's there. So based on this information, we're going to need to prepare a set of plans that can go out to public bid that describe what the contractor needs to do to bring this street up to standard. And I guess our standard, at least at this point in time, I'm using the city, the county road section kind of as a guide. You know, they require a 10 inches of base and then a 2-core surface treatment. And there's a lot of different options we could consider to try to avoid or try to minimize costs, but that's the question right now in my mind is how do we do it in such a way to provide the least costly solution to this problem? And I'll probably be talking with this information, I'm going to probably meet with several contractors who do this work and try to get an idea if there's, you know, from their experience, is it simply a matter of adding base? And, you know, there will be some slight differences in grade because, you know, the base is added on the top and not on the bottom, unfortunately. So the profile of the road that you see it right now is going to be adjusted upward in certain areas. And that's probably not going to be noticeable for this large of a project. You're going to see a little bit of a change in grade, but it's not going to be noticeable. There are also, that shaded area also represents the limits of the base. And in certain areas that the limits don't quite provide the 24-foot minimum width we want, so we'll have to scab on some base to the road to get the width. But our plan would be not to make it completely straight. We're going to try to live with what's there. And so there may be some very slight variations in the alignment, but they're not going to be very noticeable the way we're thinking of doing this to minimize cost. The stuff that's 2 inches, you know, in those areas, they're probably, we have to just again talk to a couple of contractors, but you know, I was thinking we may just take that up and re-prepare the subgrade and lay down 10 inches of base and not try to utilize that. But I'll try to see if that 2 inches of material is really worth anything as far as trying to add to it on this project. But again, we just got this information in, and I'm going to be talking to some contractors to try to get some input from their experience and how best to handle this. But our plan would be to create a set of plans that defines where the zones of the street that we have to add, you know, whether it's 8 inches of base or we need to add, or where it's maybe it's a 2-inch base additional thickness, but it's going to vary, and we're going to try to break it up in segments so that the contractor has some idea of where the changes occur. And again, that's not the way to build a street, but that's what we have. We're trying to save as much money as we can, and it's going to create some issues where, you know, we may not have 10 inches of base in all areas, but we're going to do our best to get it there as close as we can once this is finished because of the variation throughout the project. We're trying to do the grade control of that and trying to confirm and verify that the contractor gets that base thickness in there. It's just, you know, we're going to probably try to make sure we have at least 10 inches throughout the project, which may mean in some areas we may have a little more. But then the final, after we get the base section compacted and in place, well then, you know, we had talked at one time about using hot mix or double core surface treatment. I think hot mix was what was mentioned to me. That's going to probably be twice as expensive. So the question is, do you want to put in like a county road section with a double course gravel and some bonding agent to hold that pavement in place? But you know, either hot mix or a double course surface treatment. I mean, there's still going to be some issues with truck traffic making turns on it. Even if it's hot mix, you're going to still potentially have rutting in the pavement. If a heavy truck pulls in there and wants to pull off the edge of the pavement, you're going to have issues that come up related to that because of the heavy traffic.
Oh, no.
I'm wondering if you look at this intersection here, if you wouldn't be better off pouring an apron there or something, you know, out of concrete. Maybe that's something you might incorporate in that plan too as an option.
Right.
Just a thought.
Sure. We can consider that. One of the other issues out there is drainage. And, you know, in most cases, you know, I don't think we have an issue with the roadway ditches. I mean, they're They're not gonna be necessarily sized to handle the design flow, but they're gonna take care of the drainage. They'll get the water down to this low point for this stretch, because most of this land drains down to this natural low that comes through here. Over in this area, though, we have some challenges with drainage, and I've got another plan that I'll share with you that kind of shows that a little more clearly. This was in a plan that we had.
Before you cover this up, even though coming down to the southeast down here, you don't have any voids down there because there wasn't any
Oh, base, right.
base, so, but when we go ahead and complete the roads, we're gonna complete them out all the way on both Cardinal and Rancho Grande.
Is that what you wanted to do?
I think we're gonna have to.
Okay, because we talked about one time on this particular, you know, this stretch back here, maybe stopping it at some point here and not going to the very end, but that was a question we talked about at one point in time.
But we sold those two tracks separate.
Okay.
And he doesn't want to do the entrance over here.
Yeah, well, that's in order to meet the requirements of your contract, if they have road access, well, then we need to build it. But we're just going to, probably at the end, we'll try to widen out the pavement section as wide as we can within that right of way, but it won't provide a full turnaround, and we'll just be a little wider at the end.
We won't comply with the fire turnaround, we just don't have the land.
Right.
Unless they wanna donate it back to us, I guess.
Right. And then down here, there's a lot of drainage occurring here, depending on what we do with the ponds. You know, we're gonna need to release drainage from this pond across this road right away here, and so we probably stop the road a little bit short of the property line because we want to leave room for that drainage channel. But what I wanted to talk about on drainage, is I said most of this drains to this, and so the ditch is not that important. There'll be a ditch there, but it's not going to be a need for it to be a huge ditch to carry water because most of these sites drain directly into this. But over here we have a lot of water coming onto us. And the issue is, this piece of property has been sold, I understand, and there's a fence that's been built about halfway to the back, a chain link fence. And to make this, to solve this issue, the easiest, least expensive way would be to try to build a open channel that picks up this water and carries it around this way and gets it back into the ditch along this road here. If we have to bring this water this way, we're gonna have to completely reconstruct this intersection and lower, and create a much larger ditch where it's gonna really impact, we have to maybe move the road over as far as we can to this side to create a large enough channel next to the road to carry all this water that's gonna be coming into the road and coming down to this point. So I don't know if there's a possibility of going back to these people or not, but that would certainly be a...
Did you get a hotel?
These people eventually, there's a drawing, I haven't seen the drawing, but they're gonna build a building right around here.
Well, if we could figure out a way to where their building's gonna be, and maybe work with them about the alignment of that, maybe providing segments that are covered with a pipe that they can cross it and drive back across it. I mean, it's just gonna be very difficult to take all this drainage and carry it in this roadway ditch section to get to this point and carry it down here. It's gonna require probably a 5-foot cut from what you see there now to get a ditch deep enough to carry that water around the corners.
Could you get a maybe contact person?
Yep.
So we can maybe, would you be willing to visit with them to explain the situation and, because it kind of affect them in that corner too.
It's kind of a natural low there, although it's not very
You can
well
see-
defined,
you
but
can
there is
see
a
it.
natural low there, and, you know, it's kind of where the water naturally goes, and in
Yeah.
fact, they've got to address that when they develop their site.
Oh, yeah.
There's still a lot of
Right.
drainage upstream.
Would you contact them?
So I think
Laura's
there's
giving that
a benefit to trying to work that out. We could probably, you know, move this point a little bit back and forth and hear what works the best with their proposed building, but, and then we could probably put some pipe culverts in certain areas to allow them to cross, to have full access across, but there will probably be a 25-foot section, so thereabouts of a channel that needs to be built to carry that water through there. So let me know who that
Yeah.
is, and I'll be happy to call
Okay,
them. and set
all right,
something up.
yeah, well, maybe I could set
Does
up
that
a
have to
meeting.
be a concrete channel or?
I mean, it doesn't have to be. I mean, we're not talking about trying to create a channel that provides a 25-year design or a 100-year design. I mean, the water naturally goes that way. We're just trying to make sure water doesn't stand in the road and ditches. And it's, if a huge storm does come, you know, this whole area is gonna have water coming through it, and it may not be contained within that channel. But the channel's there primarily to make sure we have a flow line that will allow it to drain out. And that's something that they need to consider in their design of their building, because they're, again, that's a natural way of water coming through there, and they need to be able to pick it up, carry it through their site, whether it's over their parking area, a swale or something, but they'll need to do that anyway. But all we're saying is we want to make a little deeper channel there so they can make sure that road, everything drains out properly.
And this is very low anyway there, you know, that intersection seems to be low.
Right, but it needs to be a little lower, because if we go against the grade, you know, go up, this kind of goes uphill. And so to cut this down to get this water drained this way, it's gonna make a much more difficult, you know, their driveway will have to have a much larger pipe under it. Right now, they don't have a pipe under it, it's just a driveway, and so wherever they have their driveways, there'll be some very large pipes or something under there to let them cross that ditch. So those are the two issues, though. We've got the pavement thicknesses. I'll try to develop a strategy to deal with how we complete that street, and I'll send you a cost estimate of that street, the way we're gonna design it, and then if y'all are okay with that, then we'll go forward and complete the construction documents to a standard they can be bid out publicly.
Now then, if I'm understanding you, we really can't go proceed on that until we know what we're gonna do with the drainage, so.
Yes.
So we need to get that resolved.
I mean, if you say we can't get it, well, then we'll look at just having to regrade it. The issue here is there's water mains here, water mains here.
Right.
And so all that's gonna be impacted by what we do there. And we may have to take those water mains out, relocate them, or whatever.
It may be that once they know, you know, or it's explained to them the water flow, which I'm sure they have some inclination, you know, of how that drainage is going through their property. They may want to, it's possible they may move it further to closer to the
Northwest or?
northwest, yeah, and leave an area over here, Larry,
Yeah.
where we can, you know, get something,
Right.
some sort of a drainage, you know.
I mean,
where they may-
you know, if they agree, as long as they provide a swale in their parking area that
Mhm.
allows that water to get by, you know, if they say we have to have this entire surface drive over, well, then maybe it's, if everybody agrees, we can just put in one pipe, you know, a 36-inch pipe or a 24-inch pipe that will get that water out of there.
Yeah.
But everybody has to realize, though, under a heavy rainfall event, that street's gonna be a lot of water in it, and that swale across their side's gonna have water going across it.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different combinations of ideas we can pursue and see what works best, but we do need to have something that will allow us to drain those ditches out of that road, because those ditches are gonna be probably 2.5 feet or so below the road grade, and that's gonna be below ground. And so we wanna have a deeper channel or a pipe that lets us drain that area out.
Well, on to the next step.
And you can rest assured, when you start looking over here, if you're subgrading your grades over your depth of your base, and you start digging here, you're gonna find out that your water line is your water line is not deep enough. You're gonna run right through that. That's a given.
I mean, we could try to push that street over as far as we can to this right-of-way line, and make this a very small ditch on this side, no ditch at all almost, but have the bigger ditch on one side only. So there may be a way of pushing that street over to that northwestern side of that street right-of-way. I think the right-of-way is 75 feet or 70 feet. And so another option would be to push that entire street over up against that right-of-way line on this side, open up this area for a much larger channel section. But again, that's gonna mean these guys have to either FEDC or these people have to build a huge culvert, some sort. Valves or valve that
Get in the green space setback, and they design it all the way across, and then we have this conversation.
These electric lines, is on this,
It's
on this side.
Right. There's
And
nothing
the
on.
water line,
No,
It's on this side.
it's on this
they
side.
put the both of them.
Yeah, there's nothing on these, on the other
Okay.
side, no utility.
Depending on where that water main is, we may, we might be able to push that street over far enough to have enough room to get the ditch to where it doesn't impact that water main, but my guess at this point is we're probably gonna have to adjust that water main. At least in this area, we can cross it. I mean, right here, the water main continues down this way, and,
You
so
will there, it's like.
it'll definitely have to be taken out.
Have you seen, them been excavated, if they kept the proper depths as far as the distance of water line and their collect, they can't just be contiguous?
I don't know where they put the water main. Exactly.
Yeah, we don't, I don't think we ever saw it.
I think I did find some plans on the water lines.
They have to have a distinct.
Well, on this section here, we did plans for the water line here, and we showed it 6 feet off of this side of the street. Now, if they followed that same,
Yeah.
we didn't do plans here, so if they maintained that this is 6 feet off the right-of-way line, that's, if that's where it is, we see, we figure out a way to get
I
around it.
wouldn't take it for granted.
It's in the same hole, that's what you think, right?
So anyway, that's
Yeah.
the street issue and the drainage issue associated with it. And I think y'all had also asked about some cost options, or other costs for these ponds. Do you want me to go into that this time, or come back later? or-
Go for it.
Okay, well, we had, several weeks back, we had a meeting with county commissioner, and he recommended we talk to somebody, just from a standpoint of trying to get a budget number for pond number 1 and 2. And we had, I had contacted, I can read this. Mike Wallace Construction, and anyway, this is an email that I received